You're watching Global Trade This Week with Pete Mento and Doug Draper.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back again to Global Trade This Week. I'm very excited, as I have been for the past couple of episodes, to be joined by my co-host and my friend, Mr. Doug Draper. We'll be talking this week about our usual 4 issues and trying not to go over, 30 minutes last time?
Yeah.
I think I got a little verbose. We should have a safe word, Doug. There should be a safe word that you, like if you say pomegranate or something in a sentence, it means it's time for me to let this one go. And this isn't therapy. I don't have to use the whole hour and we can go on to the next thing.
That's it. Pomegranate's the word.
Yeah. But Team Draper has won the toss this week and you will be taking our first topic. And I can't wait to hear you talk about it. So with that, Doug, please.
Awesome. Thanks, Pete. Always good to talk to you. So here's the first topic, and I'm just going to simply say warehouse automation, rise of the robots. So I think what we've seen a lot in the last couple of years is a slow progression and buy-in with automation in the warehouse. But what's transpired with this pandemic is it's catapulted 5 years down the road, much like the consumer buying habits with e-commerce and how everything was being bought online more so. The same thing has happened, in my opinion, with the warehouse automation. People are right there in their face. They know they need to jump on it, not only for the obvious with individuals having concerns about coming into work and safety, but with the fact out high volume of e-commerce, you can't just continue to throw labor at it. So the one interesting piece that I think is really going to take off, the one item that people have started to embrace shipping online is really food, right? For years, garments, apparel, knickknacks. Okay, I feel comfortable with it. I get it. The one thing that took a while to really take hold is food, and unfortunately, it was just thrown right in our face. So the automation in food logistics, warehousing, I think is going to lead the forefront about what needs to happen because you simply have to address it, right? I don't know if you've been into grocery stores, Pete, but at least out here in Colorado, when I'm going to shop, there's also an associate that's pulling a cart down the aisle and is picking stuff for orders that are online. So not only is it my shopping aisle, it's the pick aisle. And I wouldn't say there's been any confrontations, but there's certainly a time where the picker and I are both looking at the last jar of peanut butter and we're figuring out who's gonna grab it. So I think that's going to be you can't have that. That's just not sustainable to have people picking in the aisles, shoppers are shopping in. So I think there's going to be, some rapid deployment of some pretty cool automation in the food. And it could simply be, micro warehousing, for lack of a better word, where they just have a separate area in the physical building that is taking the picks. Maybe it's regional DCs, things of that nature. But then you're challenged with the produce, right? Everybody wants fresh produce. So it's big companies out there. They're going to figure it out. But I think the food logistics automation is really going to be paramount. And the other interesting thing, so putting that on the side, the other interesting piece is that the automation that's out there. We see all the cool stuff, right? It's like going to the car dealership and there's the red Corvette and the Mercedes and all this kind of stuff, and it draws our attention in. And that's really good automation, and it's going to really take the next level. But that's the big guys. That's the Amazon, the Walmart, the Target. They have the money to invest in those type of things. What about the little guy, right? They're eventually going to benefit from the successes that those groups have. But you still need Chevy Malibus and Ford F-150s to get the job done. So I think there's some automation that is going to be growing that you don't have to, sell the farm. Some of that could be simply wearables where you can still, manage some automation and still have your fingers. Because the big picture is what takes time, right? What is the individual in the warehouse doing that sucks time? And that's going to retrieve product, right? So I think that there's going to be some automation that's affordable for the smaller company that says, bring me the big stuff. And you still need eyes and fingers to do the individual picking in order to get it in there. So I think the automation for some of the smaller companies out there is going to be large item retrieval. And then we'll let the big boys kind of come up with the Corvettes and the exotic cars to see what's coming down the future. So it's a hybrid. You got the big guys and then the little ones that are just going to be focused on, in my opinion, just relocating products so the individual can still touch it and see it.
Yeah, I remember distinctly when, we would go into these really cool warehouses like FedEx had and UPS, and you would just see those amazing machines pushing things around. And I'm looking back on it now, it was probably 30 years ago. And we were all blown away that they were scanning packages with barcodes and it would kick it in one direction or the other. And, have we really grown that much? So when we talk about automation, I think there's a part of automation that you're discussing, which is the beautiful machines, the rise of the machines, where there's going to be these claws and things picking things up and maybe moving them around. And that'll certainly be aesthetically interesting. Mm-hmm. But at what point is that what we were promised, which is the use of these barcodes, that every company on earth was going to understand their supply chain and when they're going to have to replenish, and it was going to suddenly become easier for everybody? Because I think that was a very well sold lie. I think a lot of companies have done that. But if you were to go to the automotive parts place on the corner of my block and walk in there and ask about this stuff, they certainly aren't using it to that extent. I'm sure it's made their inventory a little easier, but I don't think it solved all their problems. So I'd like to see what you were talking about, how these automation companies can find a way to make it more affordable for these smaller customers and show them some efficiency too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed 100%. I think the RFID tags of 15 years ago, you nailed it, right? It was a lie that was told to us. It was just a little ahead of its time, and I think the purpose may have come and gone with some other technology that's come to.
I wish I would have sold them so I could have made some money off of that.
Yeah,
well-timed
all right.
lie.
Well, we'll finish off topic number 1. I'll throw it over to you, Pete, for topic number 2.
Thank you. Many of us have been, when we're not glued to the news about the election, we've been hearing about the fact that Germany, France, and then today, the United Kingdom has announced another lockdown. And I woke up this morning and I was drinking my coffee and I was reading a bunch of articles about this lockdown in the UK. And much like the last lockdown, which I don't think Americans understand, they were pretty brutal about the lockdown in the United Kingdom. Remember, it's an island. It's a much smaller population than ours is, massive people in large city groups. You have huge population centers, not a lot of room to run away from it there. And it basically said, if you're going to go to a restaurant or a pub, it's for takeout only. Theaters are closed. They're closing any place where no shopping, right? No large shopping is going to be open except for essentials. And I got nervous. And, you saw my thing on LinkedIn today. Germany, France, the UK. I mean, the whole world is sort of mocking our response to this virus. At what point are we next? And come on, man, it's November now. And this is the season for greed and gluttony to propel our economy forward. Last year, Americans spent $1 trillion on the holidays, $1 trillion. And you need to tell me that we're going to find a way to keep this really struggling economy going if we don't have somebody really pushing that in. So, that's one thing to talk about. But the other is, every consultant worth their salt has been telling anyone that will listen, don't get caught again the next time there's a pandemic or something big that happens. The next time there's an economic shutdown, have a plan B. Well, they didn't really give us a whole lot of time, did they? Mm-hmm. I mean, so I don't know how a lot of companies are going to realistically react to a possible shutdown. Let's say we get another one after the election, or we get another one in January. Have companies had enough time to prepare for this thing to go sideways again, man?
I don't know. It's a good question. The beauty about this show, Pete, is you and I can express our opinions.
True.
Sometimes those are
unpopular.
They're all factual, but that's the point of the show, right?
Yeah, and unpopular.
I just don't see America accepting a full-on shutdown. I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying it's wrong, but you're not going to do to me what you did in March and April of this year. It's probably the wrong thing, and I have to fully admit it. The masks, all right, let me back up. So the mask, I think everybody's on board. If you've walked around and even heard about different locations, everybody gets the mask, right? But to start full-on shutdown, there's going to be Armageddon. I truly believe that we're not going to accept it, right? And that's call it stupid Americans or whatever it may be, but I don't know how that's going to shake out. I don't know if you'd be able to mandate everybody can only have takeout food to their favorite restaurant when their buddy owns it and they're seeing him struggle. All they want to do is go in and develop some protocol that will make it safe. We will follow the protocol, but do not shut it down.
Hope you're right.
Feeling that's going to be the mantra, in my opinion.
Yeah, I hope you're right. I don't have a lot of, there's not a lot of faith in me right now. I hate the word hope, you know. I don't have any hope in me right now that we're just going to make all that work. I think that drastic times, drastic measures, we should have done this at the very beginning. You hear all the rhetoric right now, and I hate being in the situation where I'm reacting. So I'm trying to think of ways to tell people to not react. And it's hard to have realigned supply chains and completely change the way that you're buying and selling goods. We've only had a couple of months to prepare. People are already hoarding toilet paper again, man. I mean, how much do you need, bro? You know, and I was at BJ's and they're already saying, you know, you can only buy so much meat, so much chicken, so much pork a day again, like we're back in World War II. And I'm just not comfortable that the supply chain has taken the necessary steps to correct itself to go forward. But I have a feeling that our first one of these after the election, you know, we might be drinking while it's going on, but we'll probably have a little more insight. But with that, it's time for topic number 3 before we go completely off the rails.
I know.
And you go ahead and take the ball, man.
I may go off the rails right now, Pete. I have to say, last time we got into a little rock and roll, but my third topic, I'm just going to refer to it as kind of the death of the modern day cowboy in related to the trucking industry. And so the best analogy I can think of is that, you know, cowboys back in the day were a little bit renegade, you know, their own dog, so to speak. And that really defines the owner operator of the last 50 years. So speaking of music, there was a quote I'm going to bring to you here, right? So Roy Rogers, and I know you've heard the song, Pete, because you're a good music guy. Don't Fence Me In, right? You ever heard of that song?
Absolutely.
And you know, the main one here is "Let me ride through the wide open country that I love." Let me ride through the wide open country that I love. That could be the moniker for the owner operator that grew up in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And what's transpired is that there's so much regulation and things that need to take place, rightfully so. I'm not saying the regulation is bad. That is turning this modern day cowboy and closing doors. You know, you talk about hours of service and electronic logs. That all takes money. Potentially it takes away from road time. And if the wheels ain't turning, you ain't earning. So there's the technology that they have to come into place. Additional costs with driver expenses and keeping maintenance of the vehicles. You know, the other thing I talked about is the definition of the independent contractor with AB 5, which is the legislation out in California that really blurred the lines into being an owner operator and an independent contractor, or are you technically an employee if you're doing exclusive work for one company? But then that just kind of rolls into the next, you know, the next phase of not chaos, but you know, conflict of what's going on. Hey man, I just want to ride the rails, go out there. This was a passion for me, and you know, I'm the Wild West cowboy. And all that's going away. And then you got the driver shortage, and let's say there's a son of a truck driver that is looking at his father or his mother and looking at how things have changed, how he's no longer involved or enjoys the open road. There's so much time focused on maintaining compliance that, you know, these truckers are going to be like, you know what, forget it. I'm either going to retire, I'm going to hang it up, or I'm just going to go work for a larger trucking operation because I still love to drive my truck. I absolutely hate managing a trucking business. And to me, what that means, and then I'll throw it back over to you, is that the independent guys handle a lot of spot market transactional business over the road, right? So you're a large grocery retailer, you take a bid out and you say, I need these 1,000 lanes covered, I need dedicated capacity, and I need a dedicated rate. Well, the independent owner operator isn't playing in that space. He's playing in the transactional, I need to get to Atlanta by next weekend because I want to see a friend, or I need to get down there because I have a load I know that a friend or a buddy or a company needs to pick up. So they're more transactional. So you start pulling out these cowboys from that transactional based line of business, and the capacity goes away. And so the rates are going to go up. So I think that that's really going to transpire, where the modern day cowboy is going to ride off in the sunset. We're not going to see that group again. They're either going to be company drivers because they love the open road. And then because of that, the spot market in full truckload is going to increase. So there's my two takeaways.
I think that's a crazy topic because, just imagine how much time we have spent on WebExes and back in the days when we went to trade shows, hearing about the driver shortage and how prices were going to go up and technology was going to fix this. The idea of it being over complianced, over regulated, and driving them absolutely crazy, I don't think enough attention is being paid to that. We have a mutual friend in Denver whose son got out of the Marine Corps, and he had another friend of his that was only 20 years old. I never knew this. He couldn't be a truck driver until he was 21. He couldn't even take the training because the companies that would have trained him wouldn't give insurance for them to be on their tractor trailers to teach him. Mm-hmm. And then he was driving tractor trailers for the Marine Corps in Iraq for years. So the government's already trained this guy. He was moving ordnance, and now they're saying the guy can't move canned goods across highways here where no one's shooting at him. I just don't understand it. And I love talking about technology. I believe so much in the innovation economy. But when this topic of driverless trucks comes up, and the day that maybe we say that, from midnight until 6 a.m., you're going to have driverless trucks out there, or there are certain routes that they'll go. I don't know how I'm going to feel the day that I look over and I see an 18-wheeler with no one driving it. I think it's more likely that you'll have, like we do with planes, right? So much of their flight from one place to another is automated, and you don't realize that the pilot is really only making corrections and that sort of a thing. I think the less exciting the job is, and certainly the less lucrative, the less likely you're going to have that younger generation wanting to do it. And either technology is going to come up with a smarter way, or they're going to have to increase the price to draw talent to it. I think it's a sad day. I think you're right.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for sure. And I'm all about compliance. I don't want anybody watching this and saying Draper's out there talking about the Wild West. It's the mentality of the Wild West. I'm all about compliance, but therein lies the rub. Pete, well, topic 4, what you got?
Okay. Yeah. So, for topic 4, last week, an amazing thing happened. And you've got to be a real hardcore nerd to care about this, but an amazing thing happened where the World Trade Organization needs to pick a new boss. Mm-hmm. And it's a very congenial academic way where they handle it, where everyone gets to have a vote. But in reality, it doesn't really matter what everyone else thinks in the past. It always kind of been, what we wanted to do. So the U.S. would prop up who they wanted, and so would Europe, and we'd have a conversation about it, and there would be compromises made. But for the most part, we get what we want. We get what we want when it comes to that. We get what we want when it comes to trade deals. We get what we want because of the size of this economy. And the World Trade Organization's other members said, I don't think so. So we were putting up a doctor from South Korea who had worked with the U.S. on on streamlining and making better the U.S.-Korean Free Trade Agreement. And pretty much the rest of the world, with limited exceptions, was trying to elevate a woman who's also a doctor, who also has incredible credentials, who's from Nigeria. She happens to also have a U.S. passport. So, in effect, she's an American, I suppose, if you want to think of it that way. But they wanted an African leader because of this focus. I've talked a little bit about trying to do something more with Africa, but also because Africa has become a place where the Chinese have certainly spent a lot of money and a lot of time trying to build something new up. So it causes an immediate clash. Normally, something like this happens. All the geekheads, we just assume it's like Mike Tyson walking in there with a 12-year-old. It's only a matter of time before they get beat up. Mm-hmm. 5% of the of the world's population lives in the U.S. We have, I think it was 28% of the spending power now. So we kind of get what we want, but we're not now. You had China push back, the European Union push back, nearly all the Middle East, almost all of South America. Canada and Mexico didn't agree with us. And they're supposed to be our two best friends, you know? Nobody agreed with us. And we're finding ourselves being less and less relevant. I think that we're kind of like England during the Victorian age, where we've kind of outlived our coolness, and the rest of the world is kind of coming up on their own. And I get it. I'm supposed to be this macro guy and care about the globe, man, but I'm also an American, and I don't like the idea of us losing. So it was a pretty strange couple of days for me. Very strange couple of days.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, Americans are resilient, and if we become irrelevant in the world, we're going to change that, right? And I'm not talking about wars, and I'm not talking about crazy, things of that nature, but there's ingenuity here, and we're going to come up with ways to maintain our relevance in the world through trade, things of that nature. So it's interesting. I kind of see your point, and that's about all I got on this one.
Well, don't worry, Daddy's got more. I think about the fact that we just renegotiated NAFTA to make the USMCA. We're in a trade war with China. We're effectively in a trade war with the European Union. We, stuck our middle finger out to India, who is supposed to be one of our most important strategic allies. And for a while there, we were mixing it up with Japan until we worked something out. And you can say it was all political. I don't do that. There's always more to it. But we're as big as we're going to get. We're as important as we're going to get when it comes to the global economy. Other countries now, they simply have more people, and it's a matter of time before they're consuming more than we are. We have to strike while the iron's hot and get what we want. And now I think we're starting to see that trailing edge of being told no. And it's a fascinating thing to see someone who's not used to hearing no finally hear no for the first time. And I think as a country and as an economy, we better get used to the idea that we're going to have to work harder for what we want when it comes to international regimes, because people just aren't going to say yes anymore.
That's a good point. Well, I think on that one, Pete, I'm going to say the word pomegranate. I think that was our safe word that we developed out of the gate.
Yeah. I just hope that we're still here next week. I hope that we don't have some sort of nuclear explosion or Armageddon, and that this show can't continue on to its fourth episode.
Well,
after
best
the
laid
election
plans.
tomorrow.
There will be a fourth episode. I guarantee it. So you don't worry about that. We'll get it done. But as always, it's great to chat with you, Pete. I appreciate it. And I want to thank all of you for joining us on Global Trade this week. Again, Pete and I banter around 4 topics. We'll have some guests that come on, and I'm going to bring a crystal ball next time, Pete, and we're going to play around with that thing, and we're going to get it right. So
I can't wait. It's probably going to be more accurate than I am if you get that magic 8 ball.
You got it. So Global Trade this week, of course, is brought to you by Cap Logistics. You can learn more about Cap Logistics at caplogistics.com. Hope you visit their website. Pete, I'll see you next week.
See you, Doug.
All right, take care.